Hello everyone, I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Lines TV. Welcome to a live stream. Today I'm joined by Joe Tweedy. Joe, how you doing, man?
Yeah, really well, mate. Good to be on after quite a mini hiatus. So yeah, glad to be back.
Yeah, it's been a while, you guys. Obviously, I'm trying to, fix these live streams up a bit. As you can see, I've got a stream deck now, so I can go between different scenes. Yep, I think it's working like this now, which is pretty exciting, meaning that I can do a lot more with my license in the future. So obviously, you guys expect the OBS experience to develop even more and get even better. But for today, of course, we have to talk about what's happening with the club right now, and in particular, what's happening with Sarri now. Joe, I just want to ask your opinion straight away. How are you feeling about this whole situation? I know that it's a bit of a full-on question. I mean, it's so open-ended, but I'm sure that you've got your own thoughts and perspectives that you've been simmering in your heads.
I think most of all, I'm I'm kind of disappointed that we sort of are where we are in a way.
Yeah,
I mean, I was really in favour of Sarri coming in the summer, and it was mostly because I think the change of style and really from that sort of Mourinho Conte way of managing for sort of the past 5 seasons, it kind of wore me down a bit, and I wasn't enjoying watching
yeah,
the club as much as I would kind of like to. So Sarri coming in, I was sort of hopeful. I think probably like many people had seen his Napoli side and felt, if we could replicate some of that,
yeah,
it would be a pretty big improvement. But I think kind of where we are now, I think it's a bit of a sad situation. I think you can sort of sum it up in three parts. You've got sort of the summer transfer window. Did they really do enough to give him the amount of players to really sort of implement his style?
yeah,
That's sort of the main thing. I think Sarri has been a little bit inflexible. A lot of people would say trust the process, trust the philosophy, but as someone who does strategy for a living, you don't keep doing the same thing over and over and over again without making any kind of minor adjustments to even kind of keep your own job. If he wants to be here for the summer, maybe be pragmatic until the summer,
yeah,
trying to do the top four, then go to the club and say, look, I've got you Champions League football. There should be some money, bring in some players that are going to help me kind of implement this style properly.
mm-hmm.
And then you kind of look at the players themselves. I think you and I probably for a while now have said that this squad isn't the most talented that we've had.
Yeah. That's an understatement.
You said, and I think people, in some respects, a lot of fans maybe overrate some of the ability in the squad. So it's kind of like the triangle of doom, really. I think you've got people running the club who don't really have a strategy. I said they've brought in this manager. They should have done their due diligence. They should have analysed. Okay, looking at the squad, looking at Starry, we need to bring in some players. They brought in a defensive midfielder and they brought in a goalkeeper. Have they really done enough in the kind of in hiring to sort of empower him to kind of do the job that they want him to do?
Yeah,
Arena's famous words about him bringing in the coach because they wanted to implement his philosophy. But I would have hoped that someone at the club would have actually looked at the squad and seen maybe we need to add a 2, 3, 4 maybe more players of starting quality. Players again, I'm not going to sort of pick individual players out, but
yeah,
I think we've seen particularly when you start playing teams like City and Liverpool that we just don't really have the quality of players. I mean, particularly in the fullback areas, I think just the lack of goals in the team in general throughout the side is alarming.
yeah. You're right. I mean, goals has been the major issue for me for the past
Yeah.
few years now. We're not scoring enough, and I think that's what's
Yes.
really affecting us.
Yeah, and that was the big thing because I think when you look at teams like Liverpool and you look at teams like City in particular, when things aren't going right and when you're trying to kind of implement a philosophy in a sporting side of things, it does take 2, 3 seasons. Most managers don't get that. But if you've got a Harry Kane, you've got Aguero, I mean, you've got Sterling, Sané, you've got all of these players who can contribute goals, Mane, Firmino, Sally, all these kind of wonderful players that they have.
Yeah,
It lets you get away with it. Like in some games this season, we've been dominant, but we haven't scored. The other team has scored, and you kind of felt that we're not going to get a goal. But with Tottenham in particular, I'd say with Harry Kane, he's covered up a lot of deficiencies that Pochettino's maybe had over the past 2, 3 seasons because he can nick a goal. And we don't have that this season. We haven't had that for really since Diego Costa left. So, Sarri's in a bit of a bad place. I mean, you look at our goal score record this season. I think someone said the other day that I think since we last scored an away goal in the Premier League, City have scored for 45 goals.
yeah,
I don't think we've probably scored that.
yeah. Crazy
so,
stat.
it's not it's not been. I don't think it's really been set up for him to succeed. I don't think also being pragmatic that he's not done himself favours with some of his coaching decisions, some of his team selections. And equally, I think
what stands out for you in particular? Obviously, when you're bringing up that point, was there like a moment this season where you were thinking, "Sorry, what are you playing at? What are you doing? You're not helping yourself right now."
I mean, I think probably because I think City are so good that result of the weekend. I think that was such a big gap in quality, and I don't think I think we played well in pockets. We get the ball well and stuff like that, but they were so much more ruthless than us, and we had such a lack of cutting edge. And I'm thinking, just after the second goal goes in, just try and tighten it up for a bit. Try and get some sort of semblance of control. Try and get to half time. Try and settle the game down. But the tempo of the game kept going. It kept kind of getting out of our hands. Okay, they scored some wonder goals, and there was some great football there. But to go in at half time 4-0 down when we 2-0 down after about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
The fact that there's no real effort to kind of just tighten things up. And I think maybe in some cases, and this is. I don't want it to come across too harsh, but there's an arrogance in the way he coaches that I think sometimes, you can go to a team like City and play them their football. And the analogy that I've used is, if you're doing any kind of martial art, City are black belts at this style of football, and we're like a beginner. You're not going to beat them. 99 times out of 100, you're not going to beat them going toe to toe. So I was hoping that there was going to be some sort of little tactical tweak, something that he was going to go to.
But you know what? To be fair. Even if he did have a little tactical plan, I mean, we conceded a goal in 3 minutes with a stupid error from, Alonso. And obviously guys like Hazard and Barkley weren't aware either. So it's like, and after that, Aguero scores a wonder goal, which is impossible to save. And you're 2-0 down in, really frustrating circumstances. In that sense, it doesn't really matter about the game plan because effectively it's over. You're chasing the game 2-0 down. All you can do is go forward. So I think that this is why I sympathise with Sarri, and it's the execution of this system. I think with Sarri ball, everything works in our own half. I think when we play out from the back, I think it's the best I've ever seen us play, only in terms of playing out from the back and starting attacks and beating opposition press. But I don't know, the execution, the usual suspects, letting them down. I'm hoping after that, really humbling defeat, he's going to wake up and think, I need to do something drastic. Now, I do understand that, maybe it's smarter and wiser to maybe adapt his system and, go against his philosophy right now to secure that Champions League football. But then for him, he's thinking, well, this is all I know. This is what I've been working on and developing myself. I can't go against what got me to this position in the first place because, a few of these guys aren't good enough. I think the only thing I can ask you is, do you really feel like he's under real pressure at Chelsea right now, or was it the press trying to, create a story out of nothing?
So, I mean, I genuinely believe it. I think had there been, let's say, a really viable alternative to him now, I do think that the club probably would have reacted.
Really?
And but I kind of felt this. I felt this about Conte last season.
Yeah.
And I know we spoke about that. I think the only reason Conte lasted the entire season was that they couldn't think of a caretaker option. To kind of come in and see the rest of the season because there's no one out there, and Zola for me, for however much I love him as a player, he offers very little, and I'm being very kind there in terms of what he offers as an assistant and as a coach. So giving him the reins of the club to end the season for me would be nonsensical, and there's no one really else out there. So I don't think. I'll put it this way. I think this month is going to be very telling. There are a lot of difficult games this month. I think, let's say, if we lose the cup final in a similar fashion to the game on Sunday, I think that puts him under a lot of pressure. I think if we don't have positive results, if we don't, progress in the Europa League, the United game, I think there are a lot of big games for him to think. I think actually, probably this month, and it could be that I'm completely off the market, but I think this month potentially is one that defines whether he remains until the end of the season. And I'm with you. I don't necessarily feel that this is a reflection of him as a coach. I just feel again that the more I think about his appointment, that he's not been set up to succeed, and I think a lot of that comes down to the players. You're hiring a very specific type of coach with a very specific style of football and system in place. Yeah. And okay, we spent a lot of money in the summer. Let's not forget it, but we needed to. We needed a new goalkeeper. We needed someone in midfield to play the system, but we needed wingers, we needed a striker, we needed probably someone else in midfield.
Yeah.
It's whether the club are willing to kind of go that way. It feels a little bit like they've hired him and tied one on behind his back. I do sympathise with him that he definitely doesn't have the players.
Yeah.
But equally, again, we do have some alternatives. He keeps playing Marcos Alonso. Azpilicueta has been very much out of form for a while, and he keeps playing every single game. I think Luiz and Rudiger, I know you've often spoken about this, that they're so similar. Mm-hmm. And I saw particularly in the game at the weekend, they're even seeming to occupy the same space now in defence. I don't know if you saw in the was it the Sterling goal, the 6th goal, where they were both literally holding hands in the penalty area, and with Sterling, and then they just both disappeared and he scored the goal. So, but he keeps picking the same players, in these positions. It's the same substitution. I mean, if you had a pound bet on the Kovacic or Barkley substitution this season, you would have won it 18, 19 times so far. So I want a little bit of variation in the subs. I want Ruben in midfield. I'd love to see the boy play, but that's where he's frustrating me, because I think there are some things he can do, but he just sort of seemingly, he's continuing to pick some of these players.
Yeah, exactly. But this is where things get interesting, because obviously I'm of the belief that obviously people do things for a reason. What could be the reasons as to why Sarri is being quite stubborn in that sense when it comes to these decisions? I mean, one thing I always stress, and maybe it's not a strong enough reason, but in football, managers want to have a good defensive structure. No matter if you're a team that attacks with the ball or presses high, whatever, you want to know that when the team are off the ball, when it comes to that, the other side of the game, they're still going to be solids. And I think with us being a pressing team right now, we're clearly seeing that a lot of these guys aren't necessarily good enough or fit enough to continue this. I think, again, it's the 3rd season in a row where the winter period has really messed us over. I don't think we've got players who are fit enough that can hack it. I think the energy levels really go down, and this is why the pressing's getting slacking and the movement off the ball is slacking as well. And this is what I mean by why I personally feel why a new squad's needed now. You can't rely on a 31-year-old Willian and Pedro to press and run anymore. You need younger, fitter players for this system. I think Pulisic is a good signing in this regards, because he's going to run constantly. And I think when you look at when Pep took over, I think there's a reason why that was very strategic, their transfer windows. The first season he comes, all they spend money on is young attacking players, Jesus, Sane, which makes sense, because if these guys are going to be the ones to play in the system, they need to have that energy levels to really, maintain the press and be really aggressive. Sarri doesn't have that. And of course, second season after, spend all their money on defenders, fullbacks, a new defence. And in a way, Pep does have like a new team. And let's be serious, if Pep came and signed for us this summer with the squad we have, there's no way we could fulfill this type of football. No. And it gets me thinking, well, what is the solution? We can't let Sarri go to bring in who? I mean, what would Laurent Blanc do with this team, really? I don't really understand. And I think this is what I mean. Me personally, I'm okay if we risk getting top 4. My priority has always been the Europa League from the start, because I think obviously if we win that, you'll get into the Champions League regardless. But if I was Sarri, and I know it's risky, and this is what I mean with the pressures he's under, the boards, they want a top 4 finish, but you can't really guarantee that with this team and with this squad. No. And I'm thinking, if I'm Sarri, it's brave, but maybe let me start to blood in the younger guys. Let me blood in the Christensens, Hudson-Odois, Rubens, because over time, they'll develop, they'll understand the system more, they have the energy levels, you just see the coaching really and the opportunities. I think Willian, Pedro, Alonso, Aspi, they're not going to get better. We've seen their limits at the start of the season. They all regress, in my opinion. So this is what I mean. I'm okay with that. But if you use these guys, you're risking getting a top finish. But it's the only way to get the system playing, in my opinion.
I think the interesting comparison with Guardiola is you actually look at the structure of Manchester City now with the director of football, sporting director. They are so in sync as a club that even if Guardiola left now, that the structure is completely in place with the style of players they want, the style of football they play. And this isn't just Manchester City. This whole City football group have a very similar ethos, throughout the entire clubs that they own and the clubs that they run. So if Guardiola goes, they'll get someone in similar. And
exactly,
it's really, I think, the backbone of their success, because they have now a philosophy in place. Okay, it's very much heavily influenced by Guardiola, but that philosophy now carries on. Whereas at Chelsea, if you think for the past couple of managers, the style now, the style difference or the gap between a Sarri and a Conte and a Mourinho is enormous.
Yeah.
I mean, at the moment, to put this in comparison, we have in Batshuayi, Morata, and Bakayoko, just 3 players. That's like near enough £140 million worth of talent out on loan. And that's because there's no real thinking beyond like 6 months ahead. You can't plan let's bring in 2 young fullbacks, and then we know in a season's time that they're going to be there and they're going to be the right profile, because we don't know who the manager's going to be from season to season. So, and I think that's really kind of the sort of foundation of where we're going wrong, is that we don't have this long-term view. And it doesn't have to be like this set-in-stone philosophy, but just a general direction of the kind of football club that we want to be. Because you can't keep lurching from left to right, Villas-Boas, Mourinho to Sarri to Conte, however that's going to happen, because you end up with this squad that looks it's not really good enough to play one style of football now, because you've got so many different types of players in there. I think that's kind of the thing that we need to sort out is, what kind of football club do you want to be? We've hired a manager who if the club had done any due diligence on him, would know that he plays a very set style, and yet they've not really done much to facilitate him, sort of being successful here. So that's always been my main contention.
But that brings up an earlier point you made. You were saying, have we all made the mistake of thinking these players are better than what we initially thought? If you're sorry, you're thinking at the start, you're seeing pre-season, okay, this person's looking decent, this and that and that. Do I necessarily need, so many new players coming in? Normally, if you're a new manager, it's not really that wise to just bring in a ton of different players, because, you could ostracize, players for the team already. And, with how our board is, we can't get rid of these guys. They'll be on loan forever, you know what I mean? So he's in a precarious situation when it comes with, I personally feel, I could be wrong, but that tightrope of managing all the, the egos and, the people in the squads, the cliques as well. I mean, I'm just guessing, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's got issues with the Spanish players. I know there's no evidence for anything. It's just me trying to make an educated guess. But I'm going to be surprised. I mean, I can't imagine Luis having a go or anything like that. But I mean, guys like Alonso and Aspi, if you're thinking, well, why are we playing this football? We can't do what you want us to do. Let's do something different. I mean, I'm just making something up. Yeah. But I just sympathise a lot. And I just think that, is any coach good enough to make anything happen with this squad currently? Like, if we're being serious, because when it comes to making anything happen offensively, shots on goal, whatever, it's poor. How many we see the same old combination play from our attacking players? I'm looking at guys like Willian and Pedro. They need like double the amount of shots just to score a goal now. Before when we won the league under Conte, you knew that when the decisive moment came, they stepped up. They're not going to do that anymore because they're not as good. I think the fullbacks aren't as good too, and it's like, it's simple math. You're playing possession football, 10 outfield players, and 4 can't play possession football. I mean, you're asking for issues then, aren't you?
And no one can score.
Yeah, or create. And it's just, this is why it's the new squad's needed, in my opinion. I don't think drastic changes like 100 players need to come, but I think forward players, we need new bloods in attack. 100%. New imagination, new ideas. Everyone knows how Pedro and Willian are going to play now. They're quite predictable. I've been seeing them doing the same things constantly for how many years now. It's too much now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is starting to set in that you used to talk about us being probably a top 4 or 5 team in Europe.
Yeah.
For the first sort of 10, 12 years of Roman's kind of time here, we were consistently semi-finalists, quarter-finalists in the Champions League. I'm not sure we're even the top 4 team domestically anymore. And I do generally think, and again, people might think I'm being slightly over the top here, but we're probably a 5th, 6th best in terms of the quality we've got available. And in a really kind of weird way, I mean, I'm never going to sort of put down winning a title, but that Conte season where we won the title, I think that gave such an artificial inflation of how good this squad was.
Yeah.
That I think people now carry that on because people always forget that season. We played the same starting 11 near enough every single week. We had 6 days rest in between games.
And there's one point I want to bring up too that you constantly used to talk about is, Conte, how he set up the team with these automatisms. I mean, I completely said that word wrong. But if you could explain that point to the viewers in the stream.
Yeah, so Conte had so much success when he shifted to a back 3 because he has they call them in Italy, they call them automatisms. They're set patterns of play.
Yeah.
So it's kind of why you've got Marcos Alonso playing pretty well. You had Victor Moses looking like Cafu. You have these very set kind of movements and actions. So you reduce the decisions that players have to make. So when the ball comes to Moses in this position, you do two things. When it comes to you in this position, you do two things. It's very often why you used to see the ball go from Luis into midfielder, into fullback, up to Diego Costa. That Z was one of the things that you'd see all the time happening. So that kind of coaching style simplified the game plan, but also, nobody in the Premier League really figured out how to play against us really until the end of the season. So, that season, so we've got the playing once a week because you're not in Europe. You've got the change of system, the simplified tactics that really work for the team. Yeah. And also Diego Costa was like in the form of his life. So, you've kind of got that element. And then the following season, again, we're in the Champions League playing. When you go to playing twice a week again, then we kind of find our real level. We're sort of fourth, fifth.
Yeah, we can't cope, can we?
Yeah, because even I don't even think our best 11 fresh is really maybe fourth, maybe fourth or fifth still in the league.
Yeah, you're right.
But it's just I think that gave the club probably worst of all an impression that this group of players were really special. That could really kick on and develop. And I think the reality is that we've seen, under Conte, who, he lost the plot. I still think he's a very good manager. And I think Sarri is a very good manager. You don't achieve what he did with that Napoli side and almost break, that kind of Juventus dominance while being a very bad manager. I just think that actually it's, there's a lot of it is on the fact that the players' level isn't actually that fantastic. Our two best players, Hazard, is surrounded by players who occasionally don't really understand him. And Kante, who's a great player, but Kante doesn't offer goals or assists. So the rest of the team is, I'm not saying it's up to Kante to get goals and assists, but our two clearly best players, are not real goal threats either. So it's tricky.
It is. And I don't know. I think now's the right time for the club to, kind of like humble themselves. I think that this reality that we're better than what we are. I mean, it's not the case. I mean, of course, when you're playing possession football, I know. But actually, before I say that, one thing I've been saying in our videos on Twitter, there's one thing that you've always said that stood out to me. That point you made about, if the first team players had to play the youth system's system, you'd realise that they're not good enough. And I think that now when you're playing this possession football where, you do have to take responsibility. You're going to have to improvise in certain situations. You're going to have to make better decision making, decision making on the ball. We don't see any of that. I mean, how often we're seeing teams now, they want us to have the ball out wide because they know that we'll lose it. You can counter down that flank because the fullbacks are out of position. And they know that Alonso and Aspi aren't going to do anything. Teams don't close down those fullbacks. Why? Because they can't cross. All they're effectively doing is just passing it back to them so they can start a counter-attack. Now, that's not what... Sarri doesn't want that. Sarri's not telling them spam those balls in. That's limited players making that decision in the moment because, that's as good as they can get, in my opinion. Now, I sound really harsh and disrespectful. I mean, as I'm always saying, different players got to complement different systems. And I think that, for once, if we want to play great football... We need to fully embrace it now. We need to stop half-assing everything. If we're going to play this football, get the right players for it. Don't force or shoehorn players in to play a football they can't do because it's going to affect everyone. I think this is why I'm seeing a more individualistic Hazard quite a lot at times because he knows that, nothing's going to happen with these guys. Our best bet of getting something in this game is if I can make something happen. But sometimes I get frustrated, but the reality is... The other players got the ball, not being Pedro. When's the last time this guy's played a good game, for example? I can't remember. I think before his injury, like ages ago.
Yeah.
Willian as well. He's really in decline. I've never been a Willian hater, you know that. But
I know,
just the amount of shots he's taking, stupid decision making, ridiculously selfish.
Yeah.
I'm getting frustrated now. I think that the game against Huddersfield is weird, but for me, that's one of the worst games I've ever seen from him because everything was awful for Willian, and it's just like, sorry. I understand though why he's reluctant to use some of the young players because, when it comes to pressing, maybe they're not as good as the other guys, which isn't saying much. But I think they've got youth on their side, they've got energy, and I think they've got ability, which is the most important thing in my opinion. So Sarri's got to do the brave decision. He's got to make it, and he has to start using these guys.
See, the interesting thing for me, I mean, going back to the original point you made about the young players, I mean, I retweeted a clip of Jay De Silva on Twitter tonight for people to enjoy it. And, you know, we can talk about, okay, you know, him and Reece James are playing in the Championship. It's not Premier League. Yeah, we can all agree on that. But when you see them actually play the position, their ability on the ball. I mean, you saw like De Silva dribbling around people, and Reece James is doing roulettes out of defence and playing for 60-yard passes. And you know, these are the kind of this is the sort of style of fullback that modern football requires. It requires basically the best kind of comparison I always had is sort of that David Alaba type, someone who could play left back, but you could put him in centre midfield and he'd look fantastic. They've got to have the ability to be a defender, be a midfielder, be a winger. They have to have such a complete skill set. That's why fullbacks are going for 50, 60 million pounds now, because they're so vital to team structure, particularly when you play narrow. You need width from fullbacks. They need the engine to get up and down. You know, I look at James in particular because I'm a massive Jay De Silva fan. I think you know I've been a huge fan of his for ages. Chelsea will always knock him for his size, but if Reece James doesn't get a chance next season, he's built like a tank. He's like Ivanovic with dreadlocks. He is an absolute monster in terms of physicality. He's fantastic going forward. He's aggressive. He's powerful. He's got unbelievable technique. You know, he's won Wigan's Player of the Month near enough every single year.
Yeah, he has every month. Yeah,
he's a right back. You know, he's a right back on loan. It's crazy to think of how good he is, and then you compare it to Chelsea's fullback play. And the thing is, I love Azpilicueta because he's been such a kind of great servant to the club. He's never been a terrific right back. You know, and watching him play this season and against Sterling, I felt a bit bad for him because Sterling was just tearing him to pieces. His pace, his trickery, you know, his movement and stuff like that. And I'd love to see James get a chance, but you know, we know what it's like at the club. And you know, to Nini's point about embracing the style of football, the club need to realise that they need to invest a lot of money. You know, if Sarri's not here in the summer, they still need to go and spend a fortune. You know, it doesn't matter, you know, who the manager is in the summer. They need to invest so heavily into this squad. Particularly, you know, you keep hearing rumours of this FIFA transfer ban looming and stuff like that. This could be the last summer they get to invest money into the team. So, you know, it has to be done properly, and they may have to go big because, you know, if it's this style of football they want to pursue, if it's with Sarri or with another manager, they still need to get in probably 4 or 5 really, really good players. It doesn't matter who the coach is. So,
I think, I mean, obviously, you know, let's say hypothetically, touching on your last point, Sarri does go. I mean, I understand a club like Chelsea is always going to be attractive to managers, but I don't think we're going to be attractive to managers that want to come to us. I think if Sarri goes, people are going to think, well, come on, this club isn't serious. These players aren't good enough. I won't be able to get the players I need to even kickstart anything. It's a waste of time. You know, of course, Laurent Blanc, I mean, he's been making a lot of money whilst he hasn't been in football. He'd be happy to come here, of course. But then, is he the type of option we want?
I don't think so. No.
Exactly.
I think you want someone who's excited to come and almost kickstart a project, and that's kind of where I felt a bit sad for Sarri, because I think if you'd have had, let's say, a manager come in before him. I mean, we've often spoke about maybe needed a manager to be the manager to transition away from this style of football and then bring in
like
one of the young guys. Sarri maybe needed to be handed over a team that had been coached in this style of football, so then he could put his kind of blueprint on it. Maybe he's going to do that this season, and they'll look elsewhere. But no, I think, you know, it's something that the club really need to figure out, and it comes back again. We've done plenty of streams about the club's strategy and direction and stuff like that. Do we as a club have an identity anymore? I don't think we do.
Never have.
You know, even under Sarri, we don't really have that identity of being this great footballing team. You know, it's becoming a little bit tedious to just not really kind of have any direction. I think that's where fans are getting frustrated, because as much as I'd love to see where we're heading under Sarri, I can, but I know that, is he really going to get the investment in the summer if he stays? Is he going to get 200-400 million pounds worth of players, which we probably need? You know, if we're being very realistic, we probably won't get it. So is he? You know, are we going to have another season of where we maybe had 2 or 3 good players and we get a little bit better, you know, and still not quite good enough, and he goes? It's almost a catch-22 at this point. Yeah,
of course, you're right. And I mean, you know, thinking about next summer, I mean, what's the chances that we're going to get rid of guys like Pedro and Willian in one window, as well as Zappacosta and Barkley and Drinkwater and Alonso and all these? I mean, it's not going to happen.
No.
So that means, you know, people got to accept that. If Sarri hypothetically does get sacked, someone comes in, there's still going to be, you know, managing players that are on the decline, in my opinion. So
Yeah,
they're
no,
only going to have issues in the future. So this is something that's not going to redeem itself over time unless the club, which I want them to do, come out, make a statement saying we fully support Sarri, here for the long term. Tell them why we signed him. We signed him to imprint a philosophy in this club, which we need. Because then if any manager goes, it's going to make our lives easier when we can just bring in someone similar to continue the process instead of, doing different things every single time a new guy comes in.
Yeah.
And I think that, for me, a great action to show that, we do, we consider Sarri's work, want him to stay, is to start using some of the youth players, Ruben. And I don't know, I personally feel like if Ruben ever got that injury, I think he'd be the first choice number 8 right now. I personally still feel it's down to, is it fitness? And I think with the City game came, we're thinking about Malmo and guys he'd use for that game, you know what I mean? So I think there's context in that team selection. But I mean, he's got to start I never thought I'd say this, but Zappa Costa, I think that with Aspie being so poor, I don't think, again, it's easy for us to say, oh, just give this guy an opportunity. We know that Zappa Costa's quite limited himself. I mean, let's be serious. We've rarely seen a good cross from him when he's been playing. And it's more his dynamism of just, looking busier instead of actually producing end products. So he's not going to help things. But I think Sarri needs to start helping Emerson. But again, still more context. We heard that he was having disciplinary issues with Sarri for how he was acting. So I mean, of course, the manager's not going to consider you seriously if you've been acting like that. So he's very lucky that Alonso's been this shit. That Sarri's actually thinking maybe I have to look at Emerson and see if I can give this guy another opportunity. Yeah. So let's not pretend that Emerson's been some angel that he's not getting opportunities because
he's not being misfed.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's what I mean. There's examples of context, and I think that it is frustrating for Sarri. He's got a balance. I feel like, again, I could be wrong. You're balancing a delicate couple of egos. I mean, Kale's probably pissed off. Let's be serious. Yeah. Drinkwater, he's definitely pissed off. You're thinking, regardless, I can't play against a team in the Europa League. You know what I mean? So it's natural that the team and players having their groups or whatever, that energy is going to feed off to everyone, and then things become difficult. So if you're Sarri, I think when you look at a young player, you're thinking you're the least of my issues right now. To be honest.
The interesting thing with a lot of the sort of fringe players at Chelsea is if you ever look at, there's a guy on Twitter called Swiss Ramble who people may be familiar with. He does a lot of the financial breakdowns. And he actually knows what he's talking about. There are a few people who try and do Chelsea finances who don't really have the qualifications to do it. So I would avoid
Shots
them.
fired,
Yeah. But this guy really knows what he's talking about. And you consistently see that Chelsea's wage bill is amongst the highest in the league. It's more than Tottenham's. It's more than a lot of clubs. And you've got these fringe players, particularly Drinkwater is a perfect example, probably on 90k, 100k a week, to not even really be in the matchday squad, and it gets impossible to shift them on. We saw in the January transfer window, I think Cahill's on 120 a week, something like that. 130. He's on very serious money. He's
big money.
The reason that they can't shift these players is that they're really sort of 40, 50, 60k a week players. Are you going to take a £40,000 a week wage drop when you've got another 3 years left in your contract? Probably not.
Of course not.
And as much as it's kind of Winston Bogard for sort of the new millennial generation, I don't blame Drinkwater for sitting on a really ridiculous contract. But then it comes back to the club when we sign some of these, I don't want to call them mediocre players, but these sort of averagey stopgap kind of squad fillers on ridiculous money.
That sounds worse than mediocre players, by the way. But
they get, they become impossible to shift. So again, when you come into the summer, you want to bring in new players. You've got, so much money and wages being held up by players who are never going to play. I mean, if you look at what Cahill, let's ignore Moses because he's gone now, but Cahill and Drinkwater is probably £250,000 a week. That's probably a Diego Costa level player in wages a week. A top striker. So you can't go out and buy that player because you've got wages tied up in 2 complete sort of players who are never going to play. So this is just complete mismanagement. It doesn't help Sarri. As he said, he doesn't want them in the squad. He doesn't want to play them, and it must be incredibly awkward. Have training sessions where you've got Gary Cahill and Drinkwater on the other team, always with the never going to play. It's crazy. But
of course,
sort of where we are.
And it's just like we're not helping Sarri by getting rid of these guys. I mean, yeah, remember like the arguments, and I think, obviously Conte said it himself, and Ross Barkley was signed an investment signing. The thing that always pissed me off about these investment signings is that I didn't think the investments were that great in the first place. So I was thinking, this is how football works. Let's say in 2 seasons Barkley gets sold. Let's say next season he barely plays. Who's gonna spend 30-40 million for him?
Yeah.
No one, especially when there's a history of teams getting our players for free or for really good offers by getting them on loan. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, we only need you for a season, but we want other targets afterwards, We can't afford to sign you permanently in the first place. That wasn't the point, though. We sign you on loan because you're going to give us like a quality upgrades, just like temporarily, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like, when you don't have players you can get rid of, they can't leave, of course. Yeah. And then it's just going to cause issues in the team. Now, I know with Drinkwater, there wasn't that context because, some obviously got abroad, his family don't want to leave. It's just obviously a footballer has to consider his life as well. So it's arrogant to think that, Udinese want to sign you? Okay, you're going there. Because it doesn't work like that. I mean, Cahill probably got offers as well, doesn't want to leave the Premier League, wants to stay here, maybe family issues himself. I don't understand why the club keeper... I don't understand why this was a strategy in the first place. I think it was crazy, thank God we didn't sign more players like this.
Yeah. I think the really interesting thing about that in particular is, I think because we occasionally sell a player for crazy money, I think people always assume that we do this all the time. But if you actually look at
the players we sold, like we sold Oscar, Ramirez, like good players, not Barclays or Drinkwaters. You can't command 50 million for Drinkwater.
Yeah, I think that's what the club have been trying to do. I mean, if you actually look at the number of players we sold over like 20, 25 million, not that great. It's like Oscar and Luiz and maybe Costa. Mm. And then, like as you're saying, like the players that we've probably spent 30, 40 million pounds on, I don't think if we sold Zappacosta, we'd get anywhere near the 32, 35 million pounds.
We couldn't even get 13 million from Lazio for him.
Yeah,
sums it up.
Yeah, so it's these, as you say, these kind of, some of them obviously someone saw something in them at some point, but these kind of this squad full of players that take up so much money in transfer fees and wages that could be used elsewhere.
Yeah,
it's part of this overall problem about how Chelsea build squads, because even if, let's say, you kept Nathan Ake around or Chalobah or one of these players. Sure, they may not have gone on to become absolute superstars, but if you get 4 years out of them and they leave in their mid-20s, that's 4 seasons you don't have to go and spend 40, 50 million pounds on a squad player that you can put towards a top player. If Chalobah leaves at 25, fair play, good luck. You had giving you some chances and you want to play first team football, but it stops us from buying some of this dross that we've seen. And if you start getting that flow of academy players in, hopefully some of them come on and become either really top players, or someone turns into like a Jesse Lingard, who's obviously a really good option, something like that. But it's the way we build squads by filling them with Drinkwater type signings and Bakayokos who go out on loan and Zappa, Palmieri's. I mean, you can go on and on and on. It's hundreds of millions of pounds thrown down the drain for what is basically an academy player's ability with 50 Serie A starts or whatever. So that mentality, if that changes, and then you can start targeting some world-class players. That's how this club is going to be turned around, because we can't just go out and buy players, competing with the Cities and PSGs, etc. Now we have to be smarter about things. And whether we are going to be, with the way the club's being sort of run at the moment, even the Pulisic signing, I think, he's a good player, but £60 million for a guy who's
ridiculous.
Never more than 5 league goals in a season is crazy. But
crazy. Yeah. I mean, Pulisic, let's see what happens. I'll be optimistic, but I've got some ideas for how he's going to end up. But I don't know. I mean, it's a bit of a random question, but let's say someone like a Nicolas Pepe from Lille. Are we really a club that's in a position that could seriously entertain a bid for someone like him? Or probably not now?
See, I often think we act far too late. This is a guy who I know for a fact Chelsea have been looking at for probably the past 2 seasons. And you often hear, particularly from scouting people that I talk to within the game, Chelsea have been monitoring players for an awful long period of time. They never quite make the move. They've been looking at Piatek, who went to AC Milan for ages. Yeah. Looking at this Jovic guy, even when he was at Benfica, now at Frankfurt, and now Barcelona are interested in him. Barcelona are interested in Pepe. We always
Yeah.
seem to wait until I don't really know why we kind of hang around on some of these deals. But I mean, this is a guy who was basically went on a French television show and was just saying, "I'm a Chelsea fan." It was basically the biggest public
Come and get me. I'm here.
that I've seen. And yet, we went and bought I think someone called him the American Willian, but I'm not going to be that harsh on him. But we spent £60 million there.
Yeah.
Pepe is. I mean, if he doesn't work in the Prem, he's an educated signing. He's someone who scores goals. He's on the right. He's a creative player.
He'll be useful for the squad, worst comes to worst. If he's not a great first team player, he'll be a useful squad player.
Exactly. He'd be a fantastic rotation player.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, someone who can come off the bench and bang in a goal. Best case scenario, he kicks on another level and becomes like, the Ivorian Arjen Robben or whatever. But, but it's interesting you say it, because I just think we wait far too long for some of these players. We waited ages for Van Dijk. He was another one we wanted to go for, waited and waited and waited. John Stones waited and waited and waited.
Yeah.
Then bid really far too low for him. So, it's a question of, I think we can attract that level of player. It's just a question of, by the time we get our acts into gear and bid for them, if Barcelona want him, then, it's...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at the signings Barca have made already so far. But, I mean, obviously touching on that point, do you think that maybe Pulisic could be the board trying to show everyone that they want to conclude deals quickly? Or do you think that the real context behind why he was signed so quickly was because, a possible impending transfer ban, which hopefully we can talk about in a future live stream, and obviously wanting to beat competition so he doesn't go to Liverpool or something?
So, I mean, if we look at let's say we look at a realistic worst case situation in the summer. So if Hudson-Odoi goes to Bayern, if Eden Hazard goes to Real Madrid, I would imagine that one of Pedro and Willian are going to leave because they won't have very long on their contracts and they're both in their 30s.
Yeah.
We would have had, and let's say Morata is gone or on loan or whatever, we don't really, I mean, apart from maybe Batshuayi, we have Batshuayi, maybe one of Willian or Pedro, and that's it under contract for next season, which is frankly absolutely insane that we've come
crazy.
So I think the club acted in January and they felt we need to get someone into the squad for next season. I know that they've been looking at Pulisic for absolutely
a long time,
guys to watch him, when he was training with the US from when he was very young. A player that the club have liked for a while. It's definitely not a Sarri signing. It's definitely one of the have signed.
Sorry to interrupt, but what is it do you think they'd like about Pulisic? I know cynical people might think, he's American, he's a marketing tool. You know what I mean? But what is it about the player do you think attracted to? I mean, one thing I want to ask you is, we don't have a director of football, so who's really getting attracted to him? If it's not the manager, if it's not a director of football, who is it? Just random scouts or chief scouts or what?
So, I mean, a lot of the recommendations, as far as information I've been told, come from this Scott McLaughlin guy, head of international recruitment and international scouting. I think Chelsea are interested in him for a couple of reasons. The first being he's an exceptional athlete.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I look at in this Chelsea team is where we've gone from being a team that we have bundles of technique, but you could pick in that team powerhouse players, athletes.
Yeah.
We had a lot of physical power. We had a lot of guys who were very.
We weren't losing out on 50-50s like we do now.
Exactly. Yeah. Seeing Jorginho dip his foot in and then sort of jump out of the way.
Seeing that a lot, to be fair.
Yeah. Rather than Essien sort of flying 2-footed and end someone's career, which is more.
We don't see opposition players flying anymore. Yeah,
exactly. So I think first and foremost, the club like that about him. He's an incredible athlete. He gets up and down the pitch. His work rate is insane. I think his dribbling ability is excellent. I think the only thing that he lacks, and this has always been my concern with him, is that he sometimes, and it's a little bit like a comment you'd make about a 13-year-old who's really good with the ball, is that he's very head down when he dribbles.
That's what I don't like to be. I get Sean Wright Phillips flashbacks sometimes when I see him run.
So he'll do this amazing dribble, and then you're like, okay,
overplays it.
Do something, and it's the end product. It's the final pass, the shot, the final decision.
Exactly. I mean, I'm looking at Dortmund. To think they had guys like Sancho, who I think is just way better than Pulisic. Yeah, a Chelsea fan as well. I mean, what's the story behind that? When he was young, or he's always been there?
Sancho's a South London boy, so There's you know Nini from South London. There's an absolute massive.
Yeah, he's had a ton of players from there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he's just just must have been sort of probably from the area, southeast, southwest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, I think that he's the better player than Pulisic.
Yeah, of course. If you're going to spend 60 million, in my opinion, you spend that on him. It's just like already played way less games than Pulisic, already outperformed him in everything. Goals and assists. Dembele did the same thing. Pulisic hasn't been on anyone's level, not even Gertz's when he was younger as well. No. So again, he's got good attributes. He is young, but I don't personally feel like he is like a world class elite young talent. Doesn't justify that type of money.
Yeah, but the problem we've got is that the investment in him kind of means he's going to play.
Of course,
we don't sink that sort of money to. I completely make you right. I think he'll look the part. I said you'll get tons of effort from him. You'll get tons of pressing. You'll get tons of high energy stuff. But for £60 million, I think I've looked at his stats this season. It was, I think he's got 10 league goals in 4 seasons.
That's what I mean.
Or whatever. It's really 1 in 5.
Exactly, and it's just like let's like translate that into his potential Chelsea form. We're a team that don't score goals. Yeah, how is Pulisic helping when it comes to this? He's not, because he doesn't score goals.
You often talk about football is very simple. When you're buying forward players, you want to do a lot of analysis on the skill set, dependencies if they play right or left, whatever. But so much of it is about are they naturally someone who creates? Are they someone who naturally scores?
Mm-hmm.
Look at someone. I mean, it's a very extreme example because he's so talented. But Mbappe was a goal scorer and an absolute gunman threat from 15.
Lords, yeah.
And it's a natural part of someone's game as a forward. You don't really see someone in there who's 20 scoring 3 league goals a season, then jump score 15, 20, unless it's a huge jump. Which, it's not really such a sting thing, particularly in European football. So, is he going to add much for that sort of money? Because he's going to be one of the big summer signings, and you would hope that he's at least 10, 15 goal a season player in the league for that sort of money. How many goals does Mane score a season? 15 in the league?
Yeah, he gets double digits. Yeah, I think last season he got like 20, right? Last season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I look at him as sort of the benchmark for like a supporting attacking player.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Liverpool scored more goals than most. Maybe Sterling and Sané did as well because of the system they're playing. But 15 goals should be achievable.
Of course.
And in fact, I don't think he's maybe scored that in his career in the league.
Nah, not in. Yeah, you're right. And this is the frustrating thing. I mean, we know that we're not a club that could have like a war chest of like 400 million or 300 million in the summer. Yeah. But I feel like when it comes to these expensive signings, the 3 big ones over the past 2 windows were Pulisic, Morata, Bakayoko. I mean, come on. These are like some of our biggest signings who aren't taking us to another level. And what's the point of spending big on players that aren't going to help the team improve? So this is what I mean. One day I'd love to hear more about this Scott guy. In my opinion, I just think he's just another yes man. Obviously, he works alongside Marina. Marina got him the job, and I don't, that whole situation there. But obviously, just moving on from this because we could talk about this forever. I just want to move back to Sarri before we wrap up the stream. I'm thinking, what needs to happen now? Do Chelsea? It's like a chicken and egg situation, in my opinion. Do some players have to leave? Which can't happen. Does Sarri have to, bend over and adapt? Which I don't think he should be, because you sign managers for their football. You don't sign them to tell them to do something different. Maybe we're used to doing that with signing players and then getting them to play left back or somewhere else, but it doesn't really work like that for managers. What's going to happen from now?
So, I think this is a bit of a circular argument at this point, because I think unless Sarri changes, I don't think we'll win. We might win Europa, because I think that the style looks a bit better in Europe than it has done domestically. But we won't. I don't think we'll finish top 4 carrying on sort of the style he's playing now. But then again, to your point, he was brought in specifically, and people can go on the website and see the exact words to implement this philosophy. So if he backtracks on that and just sort of goes pragmatic towards the end of the season, there's no guarantee that we're going to drastically improve and overcome. United, who are now sort of rampant in the league. Okay, they've got a bit of a reality check tonight, but in the league they've been really steamrolling.
And just to interject quickly, obviously, let's say hypothetically, he does change. What happens then for next season? Do you continue with this new adapted style, or do you try to bring back your other style? I mean, this is why you can't really, especially during the middle of a season and like such a crucial period where, I mean, now is at a time where you can have more training sessions in between games. Yep. That can be helpful, but I mean, realistically, if he does something drastic right now, it's most likely not going to work.
And he probably does need to be drastic because people don't often forget, but I mean the transformation of Guardiola's Barcelona to the sort of Bayern Munich, where there was a definite change in style, and then Bayern to City, where there again is another big change in style. Mm-hmm. He's been able to kind of progressively move from a very defined system and very defined philosophy at Barcelona, and he's made tweaks to it so it works in Germany and that kind of sort of slightly more physical up-tempo football. And then the Premier League, which is kind of the embodiment of sort of physical up-tempo football. He's been able to kind of make those changes, and we can all go back to Pep's first season. He wasn't kind of the season that people had imagined. People thought he'd come in and smash everyone 7-0 every week, and City would win every single trophy. But it's the fact I don't think Sarri's going to have that luxury. We're far more ruthless with managers than Guardiola. But it's right. Asking someone to change, and I personally think for him to be successful this season, that there are some drastic changes that need to happen to the team. But you're right. You can't just go from your philosophy to switching formation, switching the style of play, switching the players in 2 training sessions. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, you're right. And like, for example, let's try and make all our like theoretical ideas practical. I mean, let's say we have to defend deep. What's Hazard going to do dropping deep? Or what's Pedro or Willian going to do? That's the type of football that they hated under Conte. That's not going to inspire them to get this new sense of belief and motivation. I mean, it's not going to happen. So I think all we can do, in my personal opinion, is just stick with the system. But to help, Sarri has to bring in new personnel. But at the same time, the personnel he does bring in is going to help. Not help. It's going to make our pressing game maybe a bit weaker, potentially. I mean, again, I'm taking an educated guess at that. So I'm just thinking, like, for me, I would take that risk because I think these guys playing that system longer could mean that by next season they'll be more adaptable. I mean, like Hudson-Odoi, if he plays more to the end, by the time next season comes and he's 19, you could be looking at a much more complete player.
Yeah. I mean, this point about player development is obviously one that I'm very passionate about. The one that I think I probably looked into the most is that managers at Chelsea in particular tend not to invest time in young players because Hudson-Odoi is an incredible player, but he definitely needs work to become a first team Premier League player that can challenge for titles. I mean, people, even I, who I massively promote young players, know that he needs to work on his game. But if Sarri in his head is thinking, I might not even be here next season. Exactly. And this is always the because even I'm like, I'll just play him, play Ruben, play whatever. But if they don't think that they're going to see the long-term benefit of it, so say next season Hudson-Odoi might not even be here. He might be in Germany, for example. So the more I look at Sarri and can see him picking the same players every week, not trying sort of slightly different things, not trying to sort of tweak his selections. I think it is partly due to the fact that he, in his head, is thinking, I might not even be here next season.
Yeah, of course.
What's the point of investing a ton of time in Hudson-Odoi to develop him, pissing off William? I nearly called him Wedro then.
I like that, Wedro.
Yeah. Wedro was one person that getting completely pissed off because a teenager's playing ahead of him. So it's football manager. It's easy for us to sit on here and talk and say stuff should be done, but the politics and the sort of the guest games and am I going to be, all these sorts of questions come into play.
I mean, you're right. I mean, there's so many variables and factors that influence decision making, and the point I've been trying to make is not that I think I'm right, but understand the bigger picture behind why things aren't as simple as just making a quick change. Some people think, if Ampadu comes in all of a sudden, that's going to make a big difference. No, but I think that, for example, a Christensen alongside Louise, I think that needs to be a partnership now. I get it. Sorry, you like aggressive defenders, but I think when it comes to adapting, he has to adapt maybe like the specific like qualities he likes in players. You know, if Christensen doesn't have that, but you know he helps us defend counterattacks better, that's going to help the team much more than Rudiger, you know, fouling someone or knocking someone to the floor, in my opinion. Emerson, yeah, positionally, he's not amazing. He's got that thing that young fullbacks have where, you know, they're constantly too high up the pitch every single time. We saw that against Bournemouth, it wasn't helping. But again, compared to everything you've given tons and tons of opportunities to Alonso, hasn't done any single thing. At least with Emerson, he's got qualities Alonso doesn't have, and hopefully with form and confidence in a run of game time, because he doesn't play much.
Yeah.
So you can't expect him to really just become a great left back all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And he's that confidence at games. They're the small things that Sarri can do. Hudson-Odoi, in my opinion, is not any weaker to Pedro or Willian. Sarri, use them. Those three, Ruben, number 8. I hope this guy stays fully fit till the end of the season.
Yeah.
That's the risk. You know, he's delicate. I honestly still feel Sarri would have used this guy if he didn't get that injury. I think those 4 could make a massive difference. I think we might be weaker defensively, but my thing is if we can score goals, because that's what we need, if we can win the game first, focus on winning it in the first 60 minutes, then we can worry about sealing the game. And, you know, we've got the players that can just keep the ball aimlessly and do nothing with it. And I like to see that in the last 20 minutes, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think personally, looking at the guys you mentioned, Ruben and Hudson-Odoi, and you know, just generally most of the younger players and Emerson, etc. I used to think that, again, you know, we would be defensively weaker, but looking at sort of City and the Bournemouth game, I mean, this is with the Sarri first choice team here that we're getting torn to pieces, not just by City, you know, but we're getting smashed by teams like Bournemouth now. So, you know, is the gap in, you know, the fact that they're more experienced, is that now so much of a massive difference maker between, let's say, Kovacic and Barkley and Loftus-Cheek? Because, you know, I don't think Loftus-Cheek is as tactically as aware as Kovacic, but you know, I would much prefer to see him on the ball than Kovacic. Or
Exactly. I mean, you know, sorry about that. I think it kind of cut off a tiny bit. That's why.
I was going to say, you know, you've got so many players who are basically in the team because they have experience, but they're not really fulfilling their end of the bargain these days. You know, they're playing in heavy defeats. They're playing poorly. You know, and yes, sure, putting in a couple of inexperienced players probably, you know, weakens, let's say, the structure of the team. But, you know, against the majority of the teams in the Premier League, we have so much of the ball. I mean, realistically, I don't think we would suffer too much by adding them in. And the interesting thing, so one of the guys I talked to, a guy called Grant on Twitter, was just talking to me. He's a coach in South Africa. Was just talking about moving Kante from right to left. Very simple thing to do. Hand side gets abused because you've got Hazard, who, you know, is not the best, most diligent defender, and obviously Marcus Alonso, who is just I almost said a car crash. He was an absolute horror show. There you go, slightly better. I had that picture of the Porsche on my head today where he left it, drove down the wrong way.
I hope it was the Porsche and not something else. But he's an
absolute disaster, the geezer. So, you know, moving over there and putting Loftus-Cheek on the right, so then you've got Aspi, who's less likely to be, you know, 15 metres out of position, and Willian or Pedro, who run back a bit more. You know, giving Loftus-Cheek the freedom just to kind of do what he wants, almost like an 8-10. You know, Kante, a bit more defensive, bit more cover for Hazard, bit more cover for Alonso, bit more cover probably for Jorginho as well. And that's, you know, just a few things like that. But, you know, I suppose the main tactical thing for Sarri, for me personally, and this will just be probably the final thing that I'll mention on this, is the one thing that he has to figure out is that whenever we lose possession, I've never seen a Chelsea back four have so many one-on-ones. You know, it's crazy. And it doesn't matter if you're Paolo Maldini in his absolute peak or JT or whoever. You know, if you're getting run out 10 times a game by a, you know, £90 million winger, you're going to get beat once or twice, and that's going to be dangerous. The fact that it's happening so many times, that's the one thing. If he figures that out, in the current shape. I don't really, I'm not really too fussed, but that's the one thing that he needs to figure out for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it'd be interesting. Of course, moving Kante to the left, that could work. But even touching on that point, I did a lot of research into Sarri, especially this summer. I couldn't release the videos I wanted to release, but I watched a lot of games, research. I mean, I did my work. I was ready for Sarri, bro. I knew everything about it, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But one thing that's really kind of baffled me in a sense, and I'm repeating the same point every single time. Of if you're gonna play this football, fully embrace it, don't half-ass it. That left-hand side at Napoli, Gulam, a fullback that can beat someone one-on-one. He can take someone outside, whip in a fantastic cross, keep possession of the ball, and press resistant. You got Hamsik. Hamsik just plays like he doesn't need to see the pitch. He's just got he lets his senses just lead him and direct him in terms of what to do with the ball. And you've got Insigne. Now these guys were so effective in creating those vertical passing options where you break down opposition teams, you get in behind them, and then you saw that trademark low driven cross to the right hand side for someone like a Callejon or Dries Mertens or something. That's Sarri ball. When I think the last time we scored a goal like that was against Arsenal, right? When Kovacic played Hazard in. I'm trying to think what was the last Sarri ball goal we scored?
It's probably that. I mean,
what do you think? Huddersfield, was that a moment in Huddersfield?
This whole concept of Sarri ball that people were picking on at the moment. This style of football we're playing is not anywhere near replicating what Napoli were playing. So when people are going, oh yeah, Sarri ball's failed, it's not even really been implemented yet. So it's just poking holes at Sarri for this style of it's not there. I mean, anyone who really watches football and understands the game knows that it's two different things.
Exactly.
And sure, there's a question about whether it works in the Premier League. That's a different kind of matter. But people who are saying that this is it, I don't think they really understand the sort of the process of getting it in the first place. And as you say, I mean, just picking out one position, a left back, it's such a massive difference in profile from Alonso to him, and it's true. That's one position. You could go through the whole team as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's one thing I look at in particular. What do players that who I think are going to help this team? I mean, what do good players do on the ball? And when I see the type of decision making that guys like Alonso and Aspi make compared to players like Ricardo Pereira, for example, like a Tagliafico, Max, or the really good technical fullbacks, their game is on another level compared to these two. And it was quite funny. I think it was something that came out on Twitter. I mean, Fiorentina fans talking about Marcos Alonso, and honestly, it's like you could have thought it was a prank. Like a Chelsea fan was pretending to be one, just to, I mean, the exact same frustrations, and it's kind of crazy because basically it tells you that he hasn't improved since he left Fiorentina. Maybe I think sometimes when players like that play for a big club, you get the illusion that they must be doing better. But of course, any average player that's playing alongside much better players, when you're playing with Hazards and Luizes and stuff like that, I mean, you're not going to get, you're going to look better playing alongside better company, But I can see why maybe they fraud a lot of people in the club. It's not as if we've got a director of football that can really influence the board when it comes to making smart footballing decisions.
Or any football opinion.
Any football opinion.
Don't even have people always go whenever I raise an ex-player as as a potential director of football. We don't. I mean, it'd be great, but we do not need a super duper scout to come in and be director of football. We need someone who has got the respect of that board to say, "Hang on a minute, this is a bit silly." And someone like Cech or Ballack or some of these names that people mentioned, sure, they definitely do not have a massive network of scouting and all this sort of stuff. But if they're going to go and buy a really stupid player, I'm sure Ballack or Cech or someone could look at them and go, you know what, that's probably a bit stupid. Like that's literally the level of input we need at the moment. And then if you want to go and get the next Jorge Campos or one of these kind of super scouts, a guy at Leipzig or whoever, fair enough. But I think we don't even have, you're right, we don't even have that basic opinion at the board now to kind of say, this is good, this is bad. And that for me is really, that's why I'd love to get someone in like Ballack or Cech, because they have the respect of Abramovich, of Granit Xhaka, because of the relationship they have with them. So
I agree. And just speaking, it's talking about Roman. I mean, obviously today I was at I did that 888 Sport video shoot thing, and they wanted me to do like a controversial like 30-second segment on unpopular opinion, and I spoke about Roman quickly, just saying, do we need a new owner now? I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, effectively Roman has passed on responsibilities to others. Sarri said that, it's amazing. Sarri came out to say that he hasn't even spoken to him yet, which is crazy in my opinion. You've given power to Marina to basically just do what she wants. I think that's where the trust comes from. What is the point really in still staying here, in my opinion? What really is it? I mean, is there a possibility that if the right investors come in, he'd consider selling? Because is he really even making money since he's invested all his time and money into the club? Most likely not.
I think for him, this is. I think he loves the club. I think his son also. I think his family love Chelsea.
Yeah.
I think people often confuse him with.
But they were young kids, weren't they, when they came?
Of course they were young kids and stuff like that. But I think for him, it's still a pleasurable thing to own. To own Chelsea is something that he loves. He loves the football club.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, there are problems. People are going, he's not been to games, etc. But people seem to forget the news that he was denied a visa in the country, and yes, he's got a temporary one from the Israeli government, but I would imagine that he doesn't want to come back to the UK and jeopardise any chances of a permanent thing. There's been a lot of hostile treatment towards Russians after obviously stuff that's happened in the UK over the past year. He's had some investment opportunities for new stadiums turned down basically because of who he is as well.
Yeah.
This is a guy who was trying to commit to building basically a £1 billion stadium. I think people seem to forget that the only reason he's really kind of pulled out of that at the moment is because of the climate in the country. So I don't think necessarily that his desire has waned. I mean, I would like him to employ some slightly more. I don't want to say more capable, but like leave Marina to
maybe stop hiring all his friends every single time.
Bring somebody who can manage the football side. Because Marina's great at all the commercial stuff. I think people.
Yeah, amazing.
She's fantastic at that. But bring someone in to do the footballing side of the business. Who can run that. But it's an interesting one because I think again, if he were to ever sell the club, it would go to someone also incredibly wealthy, whether it's a sovereign wealth fund or this guy in the UK was trying to buy it over the summer. So I don't think we're ever going to be seriously in trouble.
Of course,
I think it's from him. Yeah, I think once his situation in the UK is resolved, I would imagine that there are probably some changes to be made. But he can't be very hands-on at the moment because he's not allowed in the country. So
yeah, fair enough. But I mean, not even a Skype call with Uncle Sarri, like
Google Hangouts.
Yeah, exactly. That's too hard. So, I mean, come on. I mean,
get him on the stream.
Yeah, one day. But again, maybe I'm just being petty. Roman, I haven't even heard this guy's voice yet. Maybe I'm still a bit salty. There's a funny story. I remember I actually met him, in Frankie and Benny's in the stadium. Yeah. I heard he goes there quite a lot. There was one day I was there. I was thinking, Roman is like literally like 2 tables away from me. Like, he's with all his boys having like some, like dead ribs and some beers. I was like, okay, nice. But anyway, I'm thinking, I got to use the toilet. And where their table was situated is like right in the corner of the restaurant. I was kind of confused. Like, where is the toilet? Is it down the right-hand side? Is it down the left? I was assuming because it was like the kitchen was down the right-hand side, the toilet's going to be near there. So as I'm walking there, thinking, oh shit, I'm going to be walking by Roman. Let me like try and play it cool. Try acknowledge him. Try just like pretend I can't like notice him. I didn't have any like time to even like come to a conclusion because some big ass bodyguard literally that's put his hand in front of me. It's like, where you going? It's like, toilet. And it's that way. It's like, oh shit. It's kind of embarrassing in front of Roman too. It's like, who's this dickhead? Like, what's he doing? Like, it was funny, but maybe I'm still salty from that. Who knows? But no, I mean, I don't know. It's just
a lot of media stuff that gets written about him, and I mean, a lot of it is speculation and conjecture. So I
think there's a ton of speculation in the press recently.
Sells until the club is up for sale. I mean, I would say that he's still committed, and I'm only really basing that on the fact that until all of this visa stuff happened, he was looking to basically redevelop Stamford Bridge for invest a lot of his own money. He was looking for external funding for it. So, it's not gone from that to like I'm not interested in Chelsea anymore. In my opinion, I would say that's not the case. It's just a question of obviously it's a bit of a difficult situation with him and his
Yeah.
whole visa thing.
I understand, but again, my main issue was, the board he's hired and how he's
Yeah,
allowing the club to be run. Because I mean, how can you be happy from a footballing sense of view? Like, how can you? You can't,
no,
because so many opinions more focused towards profit and what's going to be financially good instead of what's going to be good in a sporting point of view. And we're going to eventually have to meet that crossroad. What type of club do we want to be? Are we trying to be like a Loki and Arsenal, where we can try and like gas the fans every now and then by winning a small trophy, and really we want to appease all the shareholders and make money for them and stuff like that? Or are we a club that want to create a dynasty and a legacy, that want to be up there with Real Madrid's and Barcelona's and stuff? If you want to be that club, you do have to invest more when it comes to the football. So again, I feel like this is going to be something we're constantly going to be talking about as the season does go on. You guys, it is going to be the end of today's live stream tonight. I want to let Patreon people know I was going to give you guys the link for the URL for the match reaction video I made, and I was surprised by this, it was still content ID claims. So it looks like no matter if you private a video or unlist it, they're going to find it regardless. So tomorrow morning, I need to just quickly find another solution, and I'm most likely going to be emailing the videos to you individually, so download it from the email link. You guys will get that tomorrow. Obviously, Joe, thank you for coming on. Is there anything you want to plug or any final closing thoughts?
No, nothing at the moment really. No, just still,
it's getting quite late now. I was looking at the time and thinking, wow, I could have spoken for another few hours, but I got to be up early tomorrow. But you guys, thank you for coming on the live stream. Thank you to people that sent super chats. If you're still here, let me answer them quickly. Farouk Erol, did you watch Tifo Football's podcast about Chelsea? Nope, I haven't. Brian does things. Do you think Mata would be a solid backup regista? Bro, I mean, obviously I appreciate you sending me $2, but the mean part of me is thinking, why pay to have me answer that question? But I mean, I don't know, I'll answer it anyway. I don't think Mata would be a good regista. So anyway, you guys, that's going to be the end of today's live stream. Please like, comment and subscribe. Tomorrow I'm going to be releasing the match preview and the 5 talking points video, so stay tuned for that. I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV, signing out.